Hey guys, this is Sam, and I am the care pastor at Journey. You know, over the last couple of months, there's been so much change. I don't think that there's been any of us who have not been affected, but some have been affected pretty deeply. Whether it's a job loss, maybe financial struggle, isolation for our friends who are single or who live alone. That's been a big one that we've heard a lot about. You know, and the isolation has led to some pretty heavy loneliness. And so I asked my friend and journey partner, Dr. Lauren King, if she would share a few words of encouragement just about how to help cope with loneliness during COVID. And so as a follow-up to this as well, we're going to be hosting a one-night, 1-hour Zoom conference, myself and Dr. Lauren. It's going to be on June the 1st at 7 p.m. That's a Monday evening. So I'd love to invite you to that. If it's something you'd be interested in joining us for, go to journeytn.com/event. journeytn.com/events and register. We'd love to have you, but we need you to register so we know how many are coming. But hope to see you on June the 1st.
Hey Journey Church, my name is Dr. Lauren King, and I am a licensed psychologist at Southeast Psych Nashville. We're a private practice over in the Brentwood area, and I also attend Journey. So when Sam asked me to talk some about coping with the pandemic, I was all on board for that because it's what I'm talking with a lot of my clients about right now. You know, I'm doing teletherapy and working from home. And what he was saying is that a lot of folks are struggling with just feeling lonely. And so I want to talk about a few things. One is self-compassion. Another is the concept of mindfulness. And the last thing is radical acceptance. And those are three things you can really use to address that feeling of loneliness. The first thing I want to talk a little bit about is the idea that being alone and loneliness are different concepts. So we can be alone and not necessarily feel lonely. There's a Celtic poet named John O'Donohue, and he talks about how people are like circles, and half of the circle is filled by other relationships in our lives, and half of it is filled by an inner relationship that we have with ourselves. And I actually kind of really like that concept. I mean, we can't control right now whether we're around people or not to an extent, right? So a lot of the information out there is like, do have Zoom happy hours, meet up with people for coffee virtually. And I think all of that is good, and it is a part of connecting, but I know a lot of you are really sick of that stuff right now too. So what self-compassion says is that loneliness can really be helped. Our response to being alone can be better if we are kind to ourselves. A lot of us, the relationship we have with ourselves is like a critic and then us, right? So when we are alone, it's very lonely because you're with a mean person, right? You're carrying with you all your baggage of your whole life, right? Or anything you've been through. And all of us have kind of these different, I would say, like inner monologues running from our past. You're pathetic. Nobody wants to be with you. You're not good enough. You're lazy, you're stupid, bad things are going to happen to you. Everybody's got their own set of like cognitive distortions or thoughts that they have. Well, that makes being alone very lonely and very scary. And there's a researcher named Kristin Neff who is the lead researcher on self-compassion. It's not self-esteem. It's not like I'm great, I'm awesome. It's just be kind to yourself, right? We believe that if we're mean to ourselves, it will motivate us and make us better, but it actually doesn't. It makes us depressed and less able to function, right? I believe that God created us to be relational beings with others and with ourselves, externally and internally. So you can work on this idea of self-compassion, right? The next thing I want to address is mindfulness. So there's also some really good research on mindfulness, and it makes me giggle a little bit because psychologists are really excited about mindfulness, like really excited. For the last decade or so, I feel like every conference I go to, they're like, let's practice mindfulness. But interestingly, like the Christian faith has been onto mindfulness for a long time, right? I meditate on your word day and night. This is not really a new concept, but all it means is like paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. So if I'm in the kitchen dancing with, my daughter or something, I'm paying attention to that. If I'm walking, I'm paying attention to that. If I'm in a conversation with someone, if I'm entering data, if I am eating a meal, I'm paying attention to the look of it, the flavor, where do I think it came from, right? The smell, any reactions I have to it. I'm just in that moment. And the reason it's helpful is because what we do a lot is time travel in our minds. We're thinking about what I should have done. Oh, that regret, if I'd only done that, right? Or we're thinking what's coming next, what's coming tomorrow, 6 months, a year. And we're just all in the future. But being in that just present moment without judging ourselves, and when our mind starts to wander, not being mean to ourselves, but kind of coming back to that present moment, even just 5 minutes a day of mindfulness practice can really help anxiety. And it can be added to kind of what you're doing as a spiritual discipline, right? If you are focusing on the word, if you're using what Tim has recommended and using that breathing exercise where as you inhale, you're saying Jesus. And as you exhale, you're saying, you have my attention. It can really help to calm anxiety and also connect you with what's going on in here. One thing that I think has been really interesting about my practice is I am a pretty goal-directed therapist. Like I like to set goals with people and work through those. I use evidence-based practices. So I'm a pretty active therapist. But what I've found that's been very cool during this time is that a lot of my clients are doing much deeper internal work because they're alone and they're faced with their own stuff and it's uncomfortable and it's hard, but they're doing good emotional work. So try not to numb out, right? And pay attention to that stuff going on in you and meet it with gentle response. And the last thing I want to talk about is a concept called radical acceptance. And all that means is that you are accepting the present moment as it is, not as you wish it were, right? So we spend a lot of time wishing our lives were different. And it takes a lot of our mental energy. It makes things worse. Radical acceptance doesn't mean I like it. It just means I accept the world as it is. And it is what it is, right? So kind of going, all right, this pandemic, I can't control it. How do I want to have said I lived my life during this time? How can I capture it as something redemptive? Was it a time where, like I talked about, you worked on your emotional health, on reckoning with some things from your past? Is it a time where you learned a new skill or a new instrument? You reconnected with your faith or your family? Really trying to see this as an opportunity. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. Like I said, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is on our website. So we also, in addition to doing all kinds of therapy at my practice, we also offer free presentations to the community. So if you guys, like your business, church, school, would like something like this, any kind of virtual mental health education, we'd love to be able to provide that. So don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.